Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the ZapSec Modernization Series. My name is Carl Schneider, Vice President at ZapSec, and I'm joined by Devender Singh, who is our Principal Cloud Architect. Devender, I want to talk about a pattern that I keep seeing over and over, and it has to do with migrations or alleged transformations. After the project's complete, the migration is declared a big success. 500 workloads moved, the data center lease was terminated, a board presentation has been delivered. But Devender, when you walk into these environments 6 months later, what do you actually find?
So Carl, I find the same architecture running at a different address, right? So same oversized compute, same monolithic storage, no auto scaling, no observability, no IAC, no PAC, to name a few. They just relocated the workload that was running on the data center to the cloud. So it's just a relocation, I would call it, without any modernization. And now they are paying the cloud prices for a data center architecture, which frankly is a lot more expensive to run in cloud than it was to run in the data center.
I'm sure you're right, but let's get into details. Talk about where does it actually hurt? Because when I talk to CIOs, they feel something's wrong and the cloud bill is higher than projected, but they can't always pinpoint why.
So it always shows up in three places. So first one is the cost, as you talked about, right? Workloads size for the peak on-premise capacity running 24 by 7 on instances that charge by the hour. Without right sizing or without auto scaling, you are paying for capacity that you don't typically use for 80% of the time, right? And flexibility and elasticity is a benefit of the cloud, and we encourage organizations to take benefit of that. I have seen workloads that cost 50,000 in an on-premise ecosystem, costing 1,20,000 in cost in cloud because nobody revisited the sizing assumptions after the migration.
So it's not that the cloud bill is too high. Really, it's a matter the architecture is too old.
Exactly, Carl. You pointed it out. Second thing that I see is the reliability aspect, and this is what worries me the most. These workloads have no cloud native resilience. Single AZ, no automated failover, no self-healing. They are single point of failures in an environment designed for distributed architectures.
So what's the third point here?
So third point is about the modernization of the deployment pipeline, the velocity. So typically what we see is there is no CI/CD pipeline, no IAC, no policy as code, no container orchestration. Basically, the application delivery speed is identical to what it was on-prem. There is no improvement per se. You bought a sports car and you are driving it in first gear.
Okay. All right. So what's the answer? Because the instinct I see from leadership is typically binary. It's either leave it alone or rewrite everything. And neither one of those feels right.
Actually, neither is right, right? There is a spectrum, and that correct position depends on the workload. So, we all know the 7 hours of AWS, which is a good starting framework for application modernization and migration. However, there are certain however, what's missing in 7 hours is a prescriptive part to visualize what to do, when to do, and under what circumstances to do. And to this end, Carl, our approach is to leverage our end-to-end modernization spectrum framework. This creates a deterministic migration and modernization path for the organizations,
Okay.
and it has four steps to it, if I can explain. So the first one is rehost and optimize. So we understand that data center evacuation is a top priority for the organizations, and they're not looking for modernization. However, there are these things that can be done. For example, keep the existing architecture, but right size the instances, add auto scaling on top of it, deploy it using IAC, implement cloud native monitoring. This captures 20 to 30% of available savings with minimal disruptions. It is the fastest part to stopping the bleed that comes from
Yeah, that
migration.
that is low-hanging fruit. I agree.
Exactly. The next one is replatform. So swap self-managed databases instances for managed services. For example, your MySQL on the on-prem side or the data center side becomes an RDS on cloud, right? Custom log aggregation framework that you have been using becomes a centralized observability platform. File storage is moved to S3 with lifecycle policies added to them. And with this, you're looking at another 20 to 30% in savings, significant reduction in operational overhead as well. Third is the refactor, right? Which is where the application starts becoming more and more cloud native. This is redesigning for making the applications more cloud native. When I say cloud native, it's basically containers, microservices, event driven architecture, serverless, wherever it makes sense, right? This captures the full value of the cloud but requires engineering investment. So, not every workload justifies it. And last but not the least is replace or sunset the custom application entirely in favor of a SaaS where the functionality is supported. Sometimes the highest value that a business can drive from a modernization decision is to stop maintaining code for something that a vendor can provide as a service to you.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, but I'm still curious. How do you decide which workload gets which treatment?
So we have three dimensions of decision that we look at: business value, technical complexity, operational cost. High business value and high operational cost and manageable complexity, maybe you are looking at refactoring, right? Refactor. If you are having low business value for an application with high migration risk, maybe rehost optimize is the way to move on. Same or better functionality available as a third party SaaS based platform, then replacement is a better option.
So there's something you've told me before, though, that I think most CIOs miss. So I want to make sure you cover it here. And it's that the cost problem isn't the biggest risk here in all of this.
Exactly, it's not. The cost is visible. It's a line item that grows every quarter and someone eventually asks about it. The bigger risk that I look at is the reliability gap. These lifted workloads are running in a single availability zone, and availability zones, as you may already know, they are very prone to going down, right? So, and there is no automated recovery, there is no single instance. On premise, that was mitigated by infrastructure team manually managing failover. However, on the cloud, that team either doesn't exist anymore or they have been redeployed.
Right. So that safety net that made the on-prem architecture tolerable, it disappeared during the migration.
Exactly, and nobody noticed about this because the workload was still running. The risk is silent until the AZ outage happens and the first instance failure, the first data even loss event. That's when it becomes loud very fast.
Yeah, very loud, I'm sure. So let's give people something concrete to do with this, right? What can they take away here?
So there are four things that they can take away, right? So first one is run a post-migration architecture assessment on every workload that was lifted and shifted more than say 3 months, 4 months, 6 months ago. You need a current picture of what's actually running. What is its cost? Where is the resiliency gaps that you have identified in that application in that 6 months of running? Most enterprise haven't looked at these workloads since the migration project closed.
Mhm.
Second one, which is also important, is that map every lifted workload against the refactor spectrum that we just talked about using those three dimensions that we discussed, that is business value, technical complexity, operational cost. The output is a prioritized roadmap, modernization roadmap, not a single transformation event. And third
Hmm.
one is start at least with rehost, optimize on the highest cost workloads. Right sizing and auto scaling alone, as we discussed previously, typically yields 20 to 30% cost savings. That funds the deeper modernization work on the workloads that need replatforming, refactoring. The program pays for itself iteratively. And fourth, and the last one is treat modernization, which is very important. Treat modernization as a continuous capability, not a project with an end date, right? The workloads you lift today will need some assessment in 18 months, 12 months, right? Build the muscle to do this continuously. The migration actually succeeded when you vacated the data center, but the modernization never started. That's the real risk of lift and shift. And the longer you wait, the more you pay in the cloud cost that deliver on-premise value.
Exactly, Devender. Your cloud bill is already having this conversation without you. You should join it. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, ZapSec helps companies modernize their infrastructure to maximize the ROI and minimize threats. We do this every day. We've been there and we've done that. So if any of this resonates with you, we'd welcome a conversation on how to bring this sort of transformation to your organization. Visit zapsec.com or reach out to Devender or myself. Our email addresses are visible at the beginning of the video.